The Federal Reserve has followed what's known as its dual mandate since 1977. This is a mandate from Congress that instructs the Fed to target two things: maximum employment and stable prices, meaning inflation. Now, in theory, employment and inflation go hand in hand, as typically lower unemployment will lead to higher inflation and higher unemployment will lead to lower inflation, as we'll discuss more in just a moment. However, these targets are not quantified by Congress, and instead it's up to the Federal Reserve to decide how much inflation or unemployment is too much or too little. Now, in terms of inflation, the Fed follows a similar approach to other major central banks and targets an inflation rate of 2%, although they actually changed this recently to be an average inflation rate of 2% instead. And the main tool that the Fed uses to achieve these goals that it has in its dual mandate is to adjust its interest rates. So when unemployment is too high, they'll aim to bring it down by lowering interest rates. This will lead to loans being taken out by individuals to purchase things and by businesses to invest and grow. And this increased spending helps boost economic activity, leading to more jobs being created. However, as more people become employed, the labour market will begin to tighten and wages will start to rise as demand outstrips supply. This rise in wages may then lead to a wage price spiral that could cause a rise and an acceleration in inflation. With this in mind, the Fed believes that there's a natural rate of unemployment. This is a level that, if unemployment dropped below, would cause inflation to accelerate. The name for this level is NAIRU, the non-accelerating inflationary rate of unemployment. But there's a problem with this natural rate. In fact, there's more than one problem. The first issue is that this rate changes over time and can only be at one particular level at any given moment, but once they think they found it, then it may end up changing. And the second issue is that it's not any sort of indicator or something that's possible to observe and calculate. Instead, it's more like a description of what an economy would be like in its perfect state. So that makes it very difficult for anyone to try to figure out what that level might be at any point in time, and instead it can only be found through trial and error at the point where any additional drop in unemployment would lead to inflation accelerating. And this is something that you'll only know after it's already happened. So what this means is that the only solution for the Federal Reserve to achieve this NAIRU rate is to keep adjusting its monetary policy tighter and looser to try and keep unemployment at the correct level. As former New York Fed President William Dudley said, "We do not know with much precision how low the unemployment rate can go without prompting a significant rise in inflation. We do not directly observe the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, or NAIRU. Rather, we only infer it from the response of wage compensation and price inflation as the labour market tightens." So the Federal Reserve looks to the labour market for signs that wages are rising and sees this as something that is likely to lead to inflation. But rather than waiting for inflation to actually kick in, the Fed will usually prefer to act in advance at the slightest hints that it may be coming. Now, obviously, that isn't always the case, as we've seen with the Fed's claim that inflation was transient following the COVID-19 crisis, and then arguably taking too long to take any action. So it's not always the case, but usually they'll take action ahead of time and over-tighten their policy rather than risking inflation getting out of control. And this has proven to be too much too soon in recent years, particularly in 2015 when they began raising rates, even though inflation was still below the 2% target, and unemployment continued to drop after that point when they started raising rates, even without causing accelerating inflation. Now, these poor decisions that we've seen over the years have led to complaints that the Federal Reserve's estimate of NAIRU is really not very good at all. But despite this, they've still preferred to stick by it. So when you hear the term maximum employment, it can sound like the Federal Reserve is aiming to have everyone in the economy firmly in a decent job, trying to make sure that everyone is employed. But in reality, their models rely on there being just enough people without a job, a perfect amount of unemployment at any point in time, and the actions that they take help to make that happen. So if you found this video interesting, hit the thumbs up button to let us know that you want more explainers like this. And if you want to know more about inflation, check out our explainer video from our series on economic data releases. It's the top one. And if you want more explainers like this, check out the explainer playlist down here. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.